Hey, welcome. I'm super excited to be here with Maria. She is somebody who has gone through the Known program. And if you haven't heard about Known, it's a 12-week program for deep healing with God the Father. And she's here to share her story with you. So I'm super excited. Welcome, Maria.
Thanks, Isaac. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I was so happy when you reached out, and now it's just a delight to sit down with you here. Um, do you mind if we just jump right into it?
Of course.
Okay, so just the opening question, just a little one. Tell me about your life. Who are
Well,
you? Where did you come from? Yeah.
I don't know where to start. Am a cradle Catholic, so was baptized as a baby and have always known about God, the Trinity, Jesus, all the things, attended Mass every Sunday, received my sacraments on time. But I never had a really profound personal relationship. I never had any level of intimacy with God growing up at all.
Yeah.
And then, through college, I had my desert wandering a little bit. Got married and had we had our first child. My husband actually came into the church and he went through the
Wow.
RCIA program while I was pregnant with my
Wow.
oldest. And so he was confirmed at the same mass that she was baptized, which was really
Wow.
cool.
That's amazing.
And but then it set us on this really painful trajectory. And so after we had our first child, I suffered recurrent miscarriages, secondary
Oh,
infertility,
wow.
and was never actually able to carry another pregnancy to term.
Wow.
And we became foster parents through and after this, and actually have adopted three children through foster care. So we have four daughters
Wow.
and they are all awesome, but a handful, three of the four of them are teenagers right now. So our house is very exciting. Um, and part of my coping mechanism through all of that deep, deep grief and struggle was to turn to alcohol, and I became an alcoholic. And then by the grace of God, I was able to get sober
Wow.
and entered recovery. And that was the first time that I encountered Jesus in a really personal way. And
Wow.
he met me in my brokenness, my littleness, and my emptiness and my nothingness. And I was loved there and healed. And that was about 5 years ago. And then it just completely set my life on this different trajectory. I had been a stay-at-home mom, foster mom and all of the things. And my youngest was starting kindergarten and I was trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do now? And I felt this call to start writing Catholic books. And so now I'm a Catholic author and
Wow.
I have a children's chapter book series. I call it the Catholic Magic Treehouse. It's
Wow.
siblings time travel, meet a saint, learn a lesson, and come back and apply the lesson to their lives. And then I have coming out within the next year my first nonfiction book for Catholic moms about just growing in holiness and everyday virtue amid the craziness of family life and everything we have going on. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Wow, wait a second. So I didn't know that. So what's your book series? That sounds
So
like
it's called
something
Adventures with the Saints. There are
Adventures with the
currently
Saint.
four out. Number five is very close. It's written
Okay.
and edited, and I just have to launch it into the world.
Okay. I'm gonna go buy some of those actually. That's awesome.
Very
Um,
cool. They're available on Amazon, but if you want autographed copies, I have a website, which is mariarileyauthor.com.
okay, okay, that's awesome. I wasn't expecting to go there, but that's an answer to another question I had that I didn't know I was asking. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, that already your story reminds me. So just this last Sunday, we had the reading of Jesus walking on the water and then Peter walking on the water. And one of my favorite parts of that story is that Peter sinks.
Mm.
Um, like Peter is walking on the water through God's grace, and God could have just kept him on top of the water. But instead, when Peter gets distracted and starts focusing on himself and the waves, he sinks. And I love that because what it does is it makes him call for help. He's like, "Help, Lord, help me, save me." And I hear that echoed in your story. I'm just like, okay. you start to sink, but then in the sinking, you're saved. Um, that's beautiful. So how did you find out about Known? What attracted you to Known? Tell me
Yeah,
about that.
so part of my like starting to take my faith really seriously was finding and beginning to work with a spiritual director. And so I've been working with her for a couple of years. And one of the things that she heard me bring up several times, like in many different instances, is I have some earthly father wounds.
Hmm.
My father was physically present, but emotionally absent. And he had some anger issues, and I just never felt really loved or pursued by him at all. And she was able to identify those, you know, the gap in my spiritual life because
Yeah.
of those earthly father wounds. And so she was familiar with the program and said, I think there's a new cohort coming up, and I think this could be a really, really great program for you. And I have learned to listen to her word and advice. And so I was honestly a little skeptical. I've done other programs before, and I find them usually fruitful, and there's usually a couple of nuggets and things that I get out of it. But I went in thinking like, okay, like this will be probably like the other things I've experienced and willing to do it and willing to do the reading, and I'll just, see what happens. But I had relatively low expectations, honestly, going.
I love it. Um, so then what happened?
So then the father was just overjoyed by my willingness and my obedience and just poured into my heart amazingly. What
Wow.
was what I found so profound about the program is that and so God has done this to me several times throughout my life, which is like I go into something thinking I know what I'm going to get out of it, thinking I know what I need. And so
Uh-huh.
I went into known thinking I needed to address these earthly father wounds and that I needed to really work on healing that relationship because my father has passed away. So he has been gone for 14 years now. And so he was long gone before I really had my profound spiritual reversion. And
Yeah.
so I haven't been able to have any of these conversations or restoration with him. Um, on earth. And so I'm going into it thinking, okay, this is going to be good and healing, and I need that. Um, but the Father actually had something completely different planned for me. And what we really got into and what he started healing, I don't think it's completely healed. I don't know that crazy wounds like that ever get really healed, but
Yeah.
he actually journeyed with me through my miscarriages and all of my
Wow.
losses and that was the experience that I was taken on. And um, while I was going through that, and it was over the span of about 4 years, I was going to a counselor and I was asking for prayers and I was, coping as best as I could. And I felt like I had dealt with it and addressed it
Yeah.
and healed and moved on. And it wasn't a thing I thought about all of the time. It wasn't a thing that, I could see pregnant women or, women having babies on TV and it wasn't triggering me anymore. When other people would tell me they were pregnant, it wasn't triggering anymore. And
Yeah.
I felt like I had healed that. But the Lord had so much to show me in and through that. And then through my willingness to just journey where He needed to take me instead of
Yeah.
getting out of it it wasn't my agenda. It was His agenda.
Amazing. Okay, I have some questions here, kind of going back a little bit. If you have a good relationship with Jesus, like you're already on your faith journey, you're writing books about saints, why why does it matter to seek the Father? Like why do you need that?
So I don't know. I don't know that I can articulate it well. I think like so the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is because Jesus did.
Yeah,
Like because Jesus modeled that for us that Jesus is one person of the Holy Trinity and not the whole Trinity.
yeah,
And there is something very, very different about a father who protects and is truly infinite and is loving and that you can't do wrong in his eyes. It's like one of the things that I struggle with Jesus is so in his humanness, he he called out sin kind of a lot, right?
Yeah.
And he has these moments of harshness, he calls people out when they have little faith, and he,
Yeah.
makes sure that they see that their sin is going to have detrimental consequences. And it's just it's a different type of relationship. And I have never gotten that from God the Father. Like God the
Wow.
Father delights in my littleness. And every time I mess up and sin and, flounder and make mistakes and choose myself and all of the things, he is just loving. And this is not how this is all post-known
Yeah.
father, you
Yeah.
know. This was not what I understood God the Father to be. So like when and so I think, and again, this is when like having a spiritual director, having somebody who knows me and loves me and can see these things outside, because I didn't know what I was missing in my relationship with God the Father, because I had no clue what was possible. Like I didn't know what to hope for or to dream
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
or to expect. And so somebody else being able to look at me and say, wow, Maria, like I see this and this would be good for you. And then my ability to just say like, okay, I trust you. Like I don't know, but I'm here for it. Like
Yeah.
you haven't steered me wrong yet, right?
Yeah.
So and then going into it and experiencing this. So part of my healing journey has been and looking at my relationship with my parents, especially my father, has been looking at like what I deserved as a child, like how I should have been treated.
Yeah.
That as a child, I should have been allowed to make mistakes and still been loved. I should have been
Yeah.
taught that perfection isn't possible and that children aren't expected to behave at the level of adults and all of these sorts of things. And God the Father, now in my adulthood, has been able to love me in that way and say, like, you're still learning, you're still growing, and that's okay. And he keeps telling me over and over, your sin is not an obstacle to my love.
Wow.
And I just keep hearing that every time. I'm just like, see, I screwed up again. See, I'm failing. And he's just
Yes.
like, it's okay. Your sin is actually not an obstacle to my love at all. Like, I don't
Wow.
actually expect perfection. I just want you. And that persistence on his part to just keep pursuing me and loving me, even in my mess and my failures, has been
Yeah.
just transformational.
Oh, praise God. That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I think most people actually think of the Father as more removed, more
Mhm.
harsh, the judge, and Jesus is the one that's intervening and saying like, "Hey, let's have mercy," actually. Um, but yeah, coming to know the Father, I never used these words for God until known. I'm starting to see him as sweet, as gentle, as really tender. And to be able to have that is so good. Yeah, amazing. Can I ask a weird question? And you can make me elaborate on it if you need, but you said he focused with you specifically on your miscarriages. That, like, hearing that, that can sound like, okay, it's like maybe I have this image of healing that's like really painful and grueling of like, hey, you've got to face this. What was healing like in those
Mm.
places? What was that journey with the Father like there?
So in the known program, we are invited to journey in our imaginations through a meditation with God the Father to a memory, a pivotal memory. It doesn't necessarily have to be painful, but of course, in my case, it was extremely painful.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had two, over the course of all of them, there were two like really, really strong, powerful memories that I looked back on. And the first one, um, we had just moved and I was in this rental house and it was very small and I had my oldest daughter with me, but I had no friends. I was completely isolated and we were living in rural Ohio at the time, and my window opened up to just cornfields. And I had never lived in the Midwest before, and there are tornadoes there. And so the tornado sirens had gone off, and my husband called me from work, and he's like, "Hey, a tornado just touched down like 15 miles away. Like, where are you?" I'm like, "We're home." But we didn't even have a basement. It was just like this little two-room place that we were renting. And so just remember opening the curtains and looking out, and I could just see like for miles these cornfields. And I just remember thinking, well, if the tornado is going to come get me, at least I'll see it coming.
Wow.
And I wanted the tornado to come take me. Like I was just so profoundly alone. Like I had felt
Yeah.
so abandoned by God on so many levels for letting my children die. This was after my second miscarriage, um, which my father, I said he died. He died from leukemia. He died between my first and second miscarriage. So within a 6 month period, I delivered a 15-week-old baby at home was my first loss. It was extremely traumatic. And my father was sick. And then I moved, and then my dad died, and then I lost my second pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it like I knew as I was living it, like no one should have to endure that much in such a short period of time. And it was like I didn't know how much, and it was just like, okay, bring on the tornado, like
Yeah.
what else am I gonna do? And so the father journeyed with me back to that memory, and I was mad at him, and I'm standing there next to him telling him like, okay, great, here we are. Like, look how abandoned I was. There was nobody. I had no friends. I had no family. I had nothing. And then he brought me to my daughter, and he was like, I didn't abandon you. I didn't leave you nothing. I gave you a child. Like I gave you this beautiful child for you to love, for you to have purpose, for you to have a reason to get out of bed every day.
Wow.
And doctors have not been able to figure it out, but I believe that there is some sort of medical um, issue with me because three of my four miscarriages were after having a heartbeat. They were at the end of the first trimester or early
Wow.
second trimester. And so um, I'm one of those like medical anomalies, like less than 0.5% of women have three recurrent miscarriages after heartbeats are detected. And so um, I believe that there is something that medical advances haven't been able to catch up with yet. And the father told me that he knew what I was going to endure. And so he miraculously saved my first child so that I could have the fulfillment of motherhood and that I wouldn't be enduring all of that without having at least been given that grace before. And it was amazing. Just just so humbling. Um, but then also like the ability to see the Father's love in a memory and an experience that I had previously just written off as complete abandonment, complete isolation, complete desolation, and that there were so many joyful moments in that because I did have the joy of my daughter, and we had play groups, and like I said, like a reason to get out of bed, some like somebody else to care for, to keep me out of my own head, and to keep me going. And that perspective change like just unlocked something that had just been holding my heart hostage.
Wow. Yeah, that was my next question. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, I always get chills. That the father, like, there's so much happening that we just don't see and we don't
Mhm.
know. And that I I love that Jesus often says that like what's in the darkness will come to the light. Um, because I have many people, and at times I've thought myself that like how can we say God is good when there's so much suffering? Like we must just have to like we must just be making excuses for God or giving him a pass or just being like, yeah, okay, we'll forget about that part and you're mostly good. Um, but that what Jesus says is actually everything will be shown. Like all of truth will be revealed. And when we see everything that we will proclaim God's goodness. Right now we see such a limited part, and so we say that God is all the things bad, that he's uncaring, that he abandons us, that he's not faithful. Yeah, but we don't need to edit anything. We can just be honest. I love that you started the meditation angry. We don't need to edit anything. And then it's in truth that we come to know the Father's faithfulness and goodness. That's amazing. So, what changed in your life? You said part of your life, part of your heart was unlocked, that was being held hostage. What does healing like this actually change in your life?
It has started the process, which has been an ongoing journey, but it has given me permission to not be the one in charge.
Wow.
And I have been very subconsciously, underneath it all. It's not like I'm just walking around super prideful, like I'm in charge of everything and all the outcomes and all the things, and I'm going to control everybody's life. But what I have been starting to see, and again, this is definitely a work in progress sort of situation,
Yeah.
but because I haven't, like at my core, I haven't trusted the Father. Like I haven't trusted his goodness.
Yeah.
It's for me. Like one of my wounds was like I believed in God the Father's existence. Like I have never doubted, and that's a grace, and I recognize that. And I actually never really doubted his goodness overall. Like he
Yeah.
wants the salvation of souls. But what I doubted was his goodness for me, that
Yeah.
like I wasn't good enough to earn it. Like I wasn't part of the chosen Israel, right? I wasn't his chosen people. I wasn't, special enough. I wasn't behaving well enough. I hadn't earned it. Like all of these things, and I didn't really know why. But what I knew was that like God existed, he was good. I didn't deserve it. I wasn't part of the
Yeah.
blessed chosen. Um, and what this program, because there were other meditations and other experiences and other things throughout the known program, um, that I started to really trust in his love and goodness towards me specifically, and and specifically in my brokenness, in these places where I felt the most profoundly abandoned. He was like, no, actually I was there. Like I
Wow.
was there with you the whole time, and I have never walked away. And then when I looked at the experiences of how these painful realities and painful wounds that I've experienced, how they how I responded in sin and selfishness. And then when he was able to meet me there too and say,
Yeah.
like, I see where these came from, and I don't hate you, and I don't judge you, and I'm not condemning you for these. Like we've together been through the muck, and
Yeah.
now together we can go into the glory, because like I'm here no matter what. And then that sort of trust then takes the pressure off of me to be perfect. It takes the
Yeah.
pressure off of me to be responsible for everybody else's happiness, to be even responsible like for my children's sanctification, like their behavior. It's like
Yeah.
I try, but oh my gosh, my children, woo-wee, And, like I phrased you better than that. I've said better, like, where is this coming from? Like, this is not how I taught you. And just like being able to detach from that sort of thing where it's like, okay, God, they're yours. Like
Yeah.
I put my best. I love them, but like they're making their own choices and I can't fix this. And then it's this like lightening of the load that I get to choose into his ask for me, but then
Yeah.
not burdened by what he hasn't asked of me.
Yeah. Oh, Maria, it's so good. So good. Man, I've got so many thoughts here. I want to just say one thing and then I'll move on to more questions. But I was actually just recording this morning a video on the fact that there's so many people, I've worked with so many people who straight up can say, yes, God loves everybody. And in the next sentence say, but he doesn't love me.
Mhm.
Okay, God's good to everybody. Yep. He's not good to me. He's not faithful for me. He doesn't keep his promises to me. And it's not even necessarily that he's bad. It's just that I'm bad. And I'm so bad that I actually shouldn't be loved. Or like it makes sense that he doesn't love me. It makes sense that he loves other people. I can see goodness in them, but it actually makes sense that he doesn't love me. And my heart feels really moved right now. So I want to speak to the people watching this is that if you're that person, come.
Please.
It's not true. It's not true that he doesn't love you, that you shouldn't be loved. That's a lie. And that's a lie that's been shoved deep in your heart because of pain, because of suffering, because of ways that you haven't been loved. Come, come, let the Father love you. Let him, let him show you actually how important you are to him. Um, yeah, come. Okay. I love that you don't need to be in charge. And that some of us actually can kind of think of that as our ideal of like, I get to make all my decisions and I get to be in charge. I think of my 4-year-old. That's what he likes to say. He's like, we make decisions, not you. That he's talking about him and his 6-year-old brother. And it's it's this strange ideal. Um, but that actually, when that need for control is an anxiety response, it's a threat response that I need to be in control because I'm scared. Um, and so I need to make sure that I am safe. But if God the Father is making sure that I'm safe, if He's making sure that my needs are being met, that my hopes and dreams and desires are going to be fulfilled, then I can just be free. Um, yeah, it's
When
beautiful.
it frees up permission for me to fail so then I can try things.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
So, like putting myself out there or trying to write a different kind of book. Like I have a heart for fiction
yeah,
and I have like a fiction book in the back of my head. And then it's just like, but that sort of thing where it's like, okay, well, so what if I write a fiction book and it's a total flop and it never gets published and nobody ever reads it and it's terrible? Like, well, okay, like my identity
yes.
hasn't changed, right? Like if the Lord has put this on my heart, like
Yes.
maybe I'm just meant to try this or just do things like really wanted to go kayaking and I don't know why, like super self-conscious about doing things by myself. And then it was like I had a day and I just went out and I went on the lake and I kayaked for 2 hours by myself and it was so great. And it was like I didn't care if people were judging me because I'm out on the lake by myself. Like I just
Yeah.
was, able to just try things and pursue passions and because
Yes.
failure isn't necessarily failure, right? If ultimately, and again, when I'm in the best spiritual state, this is how my brain operates.
Yes.
Not 100% of the time yet, but it's like if really what matters is becoming a saint, right? Being attaining the level of holiness that the Lord has planned for me, then I can't go wrong as long as I am in truth trying to follow his will.
Yeah.
And I am learning again, another like super profound thing from known was like learning and leaning into the desires that the Father has given us and put on our heart. That
Yes.
like it's not, sorry, I'm like cutting myself off, but like the world, well, the world tells like, okay, so like the Christian world is like following your desires is leading you into sin, right? These passions that you have and these, lusts for food and pleasure and whatever, right? Like that's all leading you into sin and deny your pleasures and fast and shut all those feelings down. And there isn't really a great healthy balance, I feel like, yet in the church, and this program is helping it. And I do think this is changing culturally, but that like there are deep desires that are from the Father to be fulfilled through the Father, but through earthly means too. It's not like I have a desire for companionship and so I should go be a hermit and just have companionship with God for the rest of my days. Like I am meant to live in companionship with other people and to have
Yeah.
fulfillment and enjoyment in relationships because that's how the Lord created me, and like
Yeah.
leaning into and recognizing and appreciating and leaning into those desires
Yeah.
as from God and not just these like terrible temptations of the world that are
Yeah.
keeping me from being holy.
Yeah. 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 It's beautiful. The holiness is the most vibrant life. Like
Mm,
it's the life that's most alive, that they can receive all the goodness and beauty and be interested in things and can be sorrowful and can like it's actually just there. It's the way of living that's most directly connected to life. Whereas when we're in sin or when we're in fear, we create all sorts of buffers. Like we're more and more disconnected from life. Because at the center of life is God Himself. And so we don't have to choose between life and God. Like that's actually where God is life. Yeah, amazing. So if you're
yeah.
to, oh, go,
I was
go.
just gonna say, and then like my experience when I was in addiction, like the addiction cycle was like seeking that feeling of wholeness, like what we get through the holiness.
Yeah,
I'm seeking it through an artificial means, which like fabricated it, and so it was enough to keep me hooked. But then it came with the withdrawals and the downs and
yeah,
the the pain afterwards. And then when you are fulfilling it the way God intends, there is no withdrawal. Like there's no negative side effects, right? Like you get the joy and the high and like that feeling without the regret and the shame and the pain and all of
yeah,
that afterwards, you know?
amazing. Okay, so if you were to say, like somebody listening right now is on the fence about joining Known, um, they might even be thinking that's great for her, it wouldn't work for me, or whatever they're thinking. We're good at coming up with excuses. What would you want to say to the person listening who's on the fence about joining Known?
I would say that we are all sick. there is there is an imperfection in each of us. And imagine if you were diagnosed with cancer, what amount of time and money and resources would you put into curing your body? And then think about if any amount of time or money or energy is worth curing the soul, right? When Jesus talks about don't worry about what can kill the body but can't kill the soul,
Yeah,
and instead be afraid of what can kill both the soul and the body. These these sicknesses, these wounds, these unhealed wounds that we have. It's not the wounds problem. It's that we haven't invited the Father in. It's that they haven't been healed. And that healing is worth all the medical care, all the time, all the energy, all of our resources. And this is just 12 short weeks that will completely change your life. And so I went in skeptical. I went in not 100% sure. I went in expecting something totally different. And the journey that the Father brought me on was exactly what I needed. And I am so excited about going through the program again. Not because it didn't work the first time, but because I know that the Father is just going to keep bringing me deeper and deeper.
yeah.
And it is a journey worth going on. Come with me.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. So what if their skepticism persists of just like I've tried hoping too many times, I've been disappointed too many times. It's yeah, that it's just too hard to hope again. What would you say?
Then don't hope. Then show up and say it's not going to work and show up anyway.
I
This,
love
this
that answer.
Isaac, that's what you taught me is like, don't filter with the Father. Like, then sit down and tell God, I don't believe that this is going to work. I don't believe that this is even what you want for me. I think that it's going to have worked for Maria and Isaac and all these other people who have gone through, but I have not seen this consistently in my life. And here's the proof. Like my experience was like, I knew that God didn't care about me specifically because like, look at my children who died. I had to move and had no friends. My father died through all of this. Like I can point to so many times that I prayed for specific things and the
Yeah.
Lord's answer was no. And sometimes his answer is no. And that is painful. And it's a thing I still have to wrestle with. And I still have prayers that I pray ardently for and they're not answered. And so if you don't think it's going to work for you, tell the Father that and show up anyway. Then
I love it. Yeah, the theme that I tell people, there's a one rule, and you have to show up and be honest. And that's
yes.
that's the only rule. I say it a lot. And so I love that that's your answer of just like show up, not even believing it's gonna work. Um, that's fine. that the Father is real and he loves you, and
Mhm.
I trust him to work with whatever you bring him, even if it's total skepticism.
Yep.
Awesome. Maria, you are great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
And
Isaac.
I really, this has blessed me a lot, and I hope it blesses so many other people. And you can check out, I guess I should tell people where to go if they're actually interested in knowing. You can go to knownbythefather.com. I'll put a link in the video description. If you want to hear about Maria's awesome books, you can go to, they're called Adventures with the Saints. You said it's mariariley.com,
Maria Riley, author. Yep.
mariarileyauthor.com.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thanks, Isaac.